Okay, and we're back. Let's see here. So, what's going to display? All right. So, what I did at the beginning of the last, at the end of the last hour, was I said, what's going to happen if I comment out this toString method of the parent class, the person class? All right. So, will I get a compiler error? Will I get a runtime error? Will I get a logical error? Will I get no error? So you say no error at all. Okay, so let's first check the first one, the compiler error. Will it compile? Okay, good. That's what I was expecting. Good. No compiler error. All right. So now let's see what happens. Okay. What's going to display here? Right. Conberg says the first one's going to print a memory location because it's going to use the object toString method, right? It's going to tell me that it's a person object that has this. Okay. Good. Next one. It's going to use the student toString method. Yep. Conberg, and then finally the grad student. Yep. Okay. So what if we changed it? What if we said, you know what, I want this to use the super method. So what if I said, okay, I want it to be like this. I want it to be super plus open parentheses plus the student like this. What's going to happen here? Compiler error. Come on. Compile. No compiler error. Okay. So now let's see what happens. This one prints out memory location like we thought. Okay. What about this one? So it uses the super toString, so it calls to whatever gets to that, and then it's going to add it. Okay, memory location. Okay, but is it going to be a person or student? You guys say student. Let's see. Yep. So student with that, Okay. And then finally this one. See, grad student toString method. There is no toString method. So what's it going to do here? Same as S here. So it's going to be student with a memory location. Grad student with a memory location, you say. Yeah, there you go. So by simply changing this, that, we change a lot, don't we? Because now if we go to run it, we get these things now, right? Lose those memory layers. Okay, let's do this. During the break, I coded up the other classes, but I've introduced a few problems. Okay, so our employee class extends person and has a salary. Okay, with salary cannot be negative. Makes sense, right? I mean, I'd rather people pay me to work than me pay them, right? We have the class teacher that is a type of one of our employee types. Default position value. Now I have two constructors. One that just takes the name and the salary and uses the super constructor for the name salary option, and one that takes all three of these. Now this one, the plan is that it will simply give them a name and a salary and use the default position value. This one is if we want to use a particular position type. Okay. And we can get their position and set their position. All right. So let's see, let's save this. And we are going to compile and get a compiler error. Wait, what? Super name salaries. Right, the teacher is an object. I forgot to say that the teacher extends, right? Extends what? Person? A teacher extends person. A teacher is a person. Teacher extends employee, right? All right. So that should fix that problem. Now let's see if that fixes all our problems. Okay, so no compiler error. Yeah. And if we take a look, one of the things that JGrasp allows us to do, I don't know about the others, is I can create a project. And it can create here, it can create my UML diagram for me, which looks an awful lot like the other one, right? Those look practically the same, right? Person, employee, teacher. Same as over here. Person, student, grad student. Same as over here. Yeah, that's nice. Okay. So now we have this. Okay. All right. Let's see. So how can we let's test some things here? Okay. So, but an employee doesn't have a toString method, does it? We should override the toString method. Show you something here. Let's just return their name for the toString method. Or actually, I think, yeah, that's fine. Let's just return their name for the toString method. Same thing here. Okay. So now I'm going to create a teacher. That has a name. And not my actual salary, just so you know. Okay. And I'm just going to use the default position. Yeah, that's fine. And now I'm going to say okay. Now you guys might see some problems, but let's see. Let's compile first and see if it compiles. Oh, integer number too large. They can't pay me that much. Actually, hold on. And I get a double. I bet that works. Oh, name has private access. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that one. All right. Now, how many of you noticed that toString here had a lowercase s? How many of you noticed that the toString method here had a lowercase s? Small s, right? But shouldn't that have given me a compiler error? Because this and this are not the same, right? Why didn't that give me a compiler error? More importantly, what's going to display? What's going to display here? Let's see, what was the toString method down for teacher, toString method? There is no toString method. How is that not a compiler error? Teacher has no toString method, lowercase s or uppercase s. This has a lowercase s. Where should I look to figure out what's going on here? Where should I look to understand this? It's confusing, right? Object class? Does the object class have a toString with a lowercase s method? No. Let's do this. Let's step in. There it is. Employee. Employee has a lowercase s there. So it's going to return the get name. Joseph. Okay, that's what we expect. Okay, so I need to just change this to an uppercase s, right? Okay, now what's going to display? Same, Joseph. It's going to use that lowercase s method even though it's an uppercase s. Let's take a look. Me, Joseph. Me, Joseph. Where did it get that from? Yeah, the person class here. All right. Yep. So the reason why I wanted to show you guys this is because sometimes we want to override a method, right? But we might accidentally type it wrong, like a lowercase s here. So what we can do is we can tell the compiler that I'm overriding a method. Okay. What that tells the compiler is this method that is coming up next is it's overriding a method from a parent class. Right. But watch what happens when I try to compile this. Gave me an error. Because what the compiler is telling me, there is no method in my parent class that's called this. This can be a very useful thing, especially when we start talking about abstract classes in a few weeks. This can be extremely useful for us to be able to say whether or not we are actually overriding a method or if we have typed it wrong. Okay? So now if I change this to a capital S, right, and I compile it, no compiler error, because now I've named my method correctly for what it's overriding. Okay. If I leave it with a lowercase s and I don't have this override note right here, no compiler error, right? But this could result in a logical error, right? Because I'm intending to override a method from above, but I typed it wrong. Okay. All right. Let's leave that back to the S's. And now, when I use the capital S2 string method, now it's going to give me the method that I created inside the non-me version, right? Okay. All right, let's see a couple other things that we should make sure to cover here. Oh, also one thing I want to point out here, right? So there's two constructors, one with a position variable and one without. So what's my position? All of this out so that we can just go straight to here. Okay. What's going to be my position? Oh, hope I spell my name right. It's going to be my position. I didn't pass a position value, right? So no position. Which is default one, which is yeah, right. My position. There you go, right there. That'd be really nice. Yeah. Okay. Notice this isn't the only way we could have done a default value, right? We could have also done it this way. Could have had this be like this be like this, right? This would do the same thing, right? Right? Same thing. We could have also done this. Right? We don't have to have the super version, right? We could do super there, we could do that. We could have also done, instead of calling the super constructor, we could have said set name to be the past name value, set salary Oh, that's right. We don't have a no-R constructor and employee. I totally forgot about that. If we had a no-R constructor, we could have done it this way. All right. But I don't want to do it that way because what are my options here? Employee. Okay. That there. Okay. There was one other thing I did want to do. Okay, so there is one small problem in this. Okay, and that is here. What if I'm going to create an employee with a negative salary and then display their salary. Okay. Should be good. Yeah. Okay. So what is the salary value going to be? Because salary shouldn't be negative. Metahan says null. Convex says negative 1,000. Right, negative 1,000. Now, okay, what if I did this? This. Oh, wait, I need to go out to the end of this first. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh. Okay. Now what's going to display? Is it still a negative 1,000? You say a positive 1,000. Yep. Okay. So one of the things you need to be careful of in these requirements is that if, say, for example, there's a requirement that salary can't be negative, you need to make sure that you cover that in the constructor as well as the salary here. Okay. Okay. So make sure that you cover that in both of those locations. So I think we're pretty well covered on what I needed to cover today as far as inheritance is concerned. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Are there any questions? Anything that's not that's maybe a little bit confusing still? Anyone? Okay, why don't you get an error? I'll try this. Public teacher string name double sizes. Oh, okay. because, so let me copy your code that you put there over into my window to show you, so I can edit it a little bit and show you what's going on there. Okay. I'm just gonna put it down here at the bottom. So what you've got here is this. Right? Okay, so your constructor that takes a parameter name and salary. Now, what's hidden here is that before any code is done, if this first line is not a call to another constructor, if this first line is not a call to another constructor, the compiler automatically replaces it with this. So what you're doing is you're saying use this constructor, but you're also saying use this constructor. You can't use two together, okay? So if you call another constructor, it has to be the first line. Okay, now it doesn't have to be a call to super though. Let me show you an example of where we don't have to call super, right? We could call it this way, and this should work. Might give me a problem. Yeah. So you see here I'm calling a different constructor first. The very first thing I'm doing is call this constructor here. Okay. Or I could call super. All right, and I'm saying call this call the constructor above. All right. Okay. But if you try to put the constructor after some line of code, you'll get a compiler error because the first thing it's going to try to do is add in a call to the parent constructor with no arguments. Right? Call to super must be the first statement. Right? Call to super must be the first statement in the constructor. That's a good question. Okay, so I hope that clears that up. Okay, let me do one more thing. I just realized I want to do this. Let's create an employee constructor that just takes a name parameter. And let's change this to be so it's going to be, so let me explain what I'm doing here. Okay, so now if I create a teacher object, it's going to take a name and a salary, right? It's going to take and I guess I can create, and I want to make this, I want to make the default up here in the, here. Okay. I also want to create a constructor that takes just a name, calls the parent constructor with just a name. Okay. All right. So if I call it with a name and a salary alone, it's going to call the parent constructor with just a name and the parent method with the set salary value. Okay. Okay. So it's going to call this and this. Okay. So it's going to check it, right? So let's do this. E1, E2, John with negative 100. Let's make a teacher, make it T1. My salary doesn't need to be that high. T1, get name. T1 get salary and T1 position. And then let's also do the same thing we did with the employee one there, where now we have a T2. Instead of that, we're going to do a negative 100. Okay. All right, so let's take a look. Let's take a look at what these are doing. Okay, so let's take a look first at the employee class. Okay, employee, if I just take just a name, I call the person constructor with just a name. If I pass it a name with a salary, I call the person constructor with just a name, and I set the salary value. Okay. Now let's take a look at the teacher one. The teacher with just a name calls the parent constructor, employee constructor with just a name. If I give it a salary value, I use the set salary method. Okay. Because the reason why I did this is because I cannot do, right? I can't do this. Because it's going to tell me that salary has private access. All right. But I can use public set salary method to set the salary. Right? Okay. All right. So now let's see what's going to happen. Okay. My name, my employee one's name is John. What's the salary? A second. Okay. What's the salary value for John? Negative 100. Any other responses? We didn't set a salary value, right? And let's see, employee. All right. We didn't set a salary value. So what should it be? Emery says null. You say 0 or 0.0. Yep, 0.0. Remember, we get a default value. Default value for a string would be null, but for a double is 0. An integer is 0. Okay. What about this one? Name is John. I should probably change the names. Okay. What's the salary? One second. I'll be right back. All right. Sorry about that, back. Sorry that somebody was at the door. Okay. What's the salary for this one? Y'all like, I don't know. I give up hoping to figure this thing out. So it became negative 100 because in the constructor for employee, we just set the salary to whatever it is that we pass it, right? Okay. Okay. Next, teacher, Joseph. Name is Joseph. Salary is? Salary is the default value, right? Which would be 0. Position is the default position, which is that Dr. Oretemuyisi, right? Okay. Last one, here we go. I'm going to give it a name and a negative 100. Okay, name is still Joseph, right? What's the salary now? What should the salary be this time? 0, negative 100. The same as what? Because there's a 0, there's a negative 100. Okay. It's 0. What? How did that happen? Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the constructor for teacher. Remember, the teacher, I couldn't just say salary equals salary because that gave me a compiler error. So instead I use the set salary method. But teacher doesn't have a set salary method. So it uses the parent employee set salary method, which checks to make sure that it's not greater, to make sure that it is greater than a 0. All right. So because it was not greater than 0, it didn't execute this line, and so it kept it as what it was, which was the default value, which wasn't ever set, so it was 0. Okay. All right, then finally get position. This one, it's the same as before. All right, okay. Like these examples are out there. They're out there on the examples folder. Let me encourage you, look it over, make sure you understand why these values were showing up to be what they were, why this one managed to be negative 100, but this one did not, even though those two things here, these two constructor constructor examples, they look very similar. Name, salary, name, salary, right? It looks the same, but it's very different because of the way that it's written down below, that the constructor here for teacher uses the set salary method from the employee class, which does not allow a negative value. Okay. So make sure you understand those things, all right? Okay. Are there any questions before we end for the day? Again, this example is out there on the lecture folders, okay? Make sure you go and check that out, right? Batuan, you should do what we've talked about in class, which is that you should have private data fields and public facing methods, right? Just like we talked about in class for that we make all the data fields private. Also, some of you have asked about that I didn't say what type of list to use for the list of products for the store. Yeah, that's because I'm letting you decide what you think you should use. There's not a one right answer to that. And so you use the data structure that we've talked about in this class or in a previous class. So you can use any data structure we've talked about in 101 or 102 so far to keep the list of products that the store has. Okay. It's up to you. All right. Good question there. Anything else? All right. Again, if you have any questions about the assignment, please let me know and ask sooner rather than later so that I can be sure to have time to answer you before the assignment is due. All right. Have a good evening. I will see you guys tomorrow afternoon.
Good evening, Joseph Hocam.